Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Some of you may know that we're deep into a Lunar Green 67 project for my wife, so that makes it a perfect time to go jump in on another one, the Ultimate Crew Cab. It's time to get back on it. Let's go fill you guys in with what I've been doing. All right guys, well it feels good to get back on the Ultimate Crew Cab project. This is one of my personal projects and sometimes it gets pushed to the side, but we're back on it. I really want to dig in and finish it this year. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm going to do my darndest to try to get this thing done. I went back and looked, and the last time this thing was on the channel is going on 9 months ago now. We put the windshield in, I put the rear windshield in, and got the whole cab enclosed with all the glass. So that's nice. It was a big step when I got that Auto Metal Direct windshield installed. It kind of really tied the project together and really kind of made it feel like a truck instead of just a shell. Even though we're pretty far from it being a completed truck, you know, that really kind of, you can shut the doors. It just feels different in there because we have all the glass installed. We have the wing windows and the side glass. Kind of whenever I was let off on this project, I was dealing with the wiring. But this is just the American Auto wire harness for the bump side trucks. Like if you just like a stock truck and you're replacing wiring harness, that's what all that stuff is. And really, it's once you get whittling away at it, it's not that bad. This doesn't have anything to do with the 6.7 Power Stroke. If you guys are new to the channel, I've actually made my own standalone harness for the 6.7 Power Stroke. I stripped out a factory harness. We're running the factory ECU and transmission controller, but I stripped down a full factory harness to make this thing run standalone. I've actually had this thing running. There's some videos of me doing that on the channel. I'll probably link those down in the description below if you guys want to catch up on that. Since it's been so long since I've had this thing on the channel, we probably have some new viewers of the channel and haven't ever seen this truck before. So basically, I have to integrate all of my this right here is a Power Stroke stuff. This will be my that's actually for the steering or the column, the key. So that's my start wires. Here's my DTC port. So this stuff here is Power Stroke stuff, and over there is my body control module. We have a few wires going to that still. That has a home up under the dash. We also have to integrate everything into our Dakota digital gauge cluster there. So we have a modern gauge cluster with a GPS speedometer and stuff, so all that works. And then this is basically all just your dash harness for the all the bump side wiring. So everything from fuel gauges to interior lights, headlights, all that stuff's going to be run like a bump side truck. Some people who have done the 6.7 Power Stroke swap elect to either, one, keep the dash, or if they kept the Power Stroke dash, and if they keep the bump side dash, they run the whole harness from the Super Duty and integrate that into like make the dome light work off of the Super Duty stuff. Where I'm electing to make the truck run just like it was on a bump side truck, and the only thing Power Stroke or Super Duty is the engine controls. So anyway, you know, there's multiple ways to do it. That's just the way I'm doing it. I thought that would be a little bit simpler. You know, keep the bump side stuff the way, you know, all the bump side stuff, instead of trying to integrate the two programs. We're basically just going to have two separate systems, where one is the engine and transmission, and everything else is just the cab of the truck. So like here is our headlight wires going to the headlights. This is all American Auto wire stuff. It's all labeled, if you can see that there. So that stuff's kind of pretty straightforward and simple. This will be our transmission plug going down to our transmission harness. All of that I've already sorted out and cleaned up all the wiring. It's in a box in the back waiting for me to get the inner fenders on, and then I'll start hooking all that up. Like right here's our pass-through plugs for the Power Stroke stuff coming through the firewall. It'll plug in that, and I have a box that mounts on the inner fender. But basically I haven't really been doing much here on the truck. Well, I haven't been doing much of it all, but nothing's been going on up here or in the cab. I don't think that you guys haven't seen. One thing I did do was I got the rear bumper painted, and I added the dealership name on the back bumper on stencils, like they did here locally for us here. This is what the dealership did locally to us. I don't know if this dealership did, but locally to us, this is what they did. So I kind of recreate that in all the trucks that I do. And here I remade a sticker. I'm really proud of this. It came out perfect. We have a bumper that still has the sticker. This is the who made this bumper, and I recreated that decal, and it came out perfect. So that's just a little cool touch I wanted to show off. But otherwise, we haven't really been doing much. I have like the inner fenders here ready to go on, and I did paint my core support. That was one thing I had to do. So I painted the lower section here, the radiator mount. Since I'm running a big radiator, this is our lower mount, and I also made mounts for our secondary radiator. So that's those there. So this secondary cooler is going to run our intercooler basically, and our fuel cooler and transmission cooler. I'd have to look at the diagrams, but basically all that is ready to go on. But before I assembled the front end, I wanted to do everything I could under here while it's easy to get to, because once we get our inner fenders on and our fenders on, you got to climb over it and get down in here. So I was working on the brake system. I have a Hydro Boost mounted up here, cut my own plate here for the firewall mount, and I started running my hoses down to my power steering, and I've also ran my brake lines right here down to the frame, and then I ran brakes down to our hoses, and I have hard lines coming over here to this side, and I ran a hard line down to the frame rail that is running the Super Duty hard line down to the back rear end. So getting that stuff lined out, and I want to do stuff like replace this hose because it's way up under here, would be hard to get to when it's all assembled. So I want to do all that stuff before I start assembly on the front end, and make it a little bit harder to work on. And a big thing I wanted to do before that, I was originally not going to do this because I had a S&S diesel DC disaster prevention kit already installed on the CP4 fuel pump on these things that like to fail. But since I even started this project and bought that disaster prevention kit, S&S Diesel came out with a DCR pump kit, which gets rid of your CP4 injection pump and changes it to a much more reliable DCR pump. And you don't have those failure-prone CP4 injection pumps on the engine anymore. I've installed one of these on my personal tow truck, or my dually truck that I do a lot of towing with, and I didn't want to be left on the side of the road with that CP4 failing on me. So I decided right now is the time to do it. So I went ahead and ordered a new pump for this thing. I got to get that installed in the engine, so we'll be good to go on that. And then we'll start assembly on the front end. So I'm going to get going on the injection pump. Shouldn't take me too long. It's pretty straightforward. And then we'll get the front end together. All right, I have the old injection pump out of the engine. I have it here on the floor. And you can see this block here on top of the pump with this hose going out of it. This is the old disaster prevention kit. And basically, I didn't really describe it very well, but what happens with these things is the case of the pump is lubricated by your diesel. So whenever this thing fails, and it's usually caused by water in the fuel or dirty fuel, the original way this is set up is the fuel comes out of the crankcase and goes into the injectors, and it causes metal shavings to go through your whole fuel system. And that's why it's called a disaster, because basically you have to get what they call a fuel contamination kit from Ford, or there's probably some aftermarket suppliers now. And that is like all your fuel lines, every single fuel line on the truck, the hard lines, the soft lines, and all your injectors, your injecting pump. You have to clean all the lines going back to the tank, and clean your tank out. and it is a massive job. I've done a couple of them here in the shop on customers' trucks whenever I used to work on diesels, and it is a major job, usually around $10,000. I usually got them out the door about $8,000, but that was about 4 or 5 years ago now, so the prices probably of all the parts and labor and everything's gone way up, so you're probably 10 to 12 nowadays. So it is a big deal. That's why it's good to prevent it. Now, usually it happens because of bad fuel, water in your fuel, or just not changing your fuel filters, that kind of thing. So usually you're good. And this injection pump probably only has under 10,000 miles on it, because this is a Ford reman engine, and it was replaced on the truck that it was in before it wrecked. And it was like under 10, I can't remember the exact number, but it was under 10,000 miles on the engine, what the service record showed. So this injection pump's probably in good shape. It's probably a waste of time doing this, but the peace of mind is what I'm after here. So here is our new injection pump, our shiny new injection pump. As you can see, it is a lot different. They have an adapter plate that you bolt on this so you can go in the valley with it. So I'm gonna get that installed and in the way, underway here, and get it back hooked up. And basically, once I get finished with that, we can move ahead with our inner fenders and core support and really start piecing this front end together. All right, I got everything buttoned back up. We have our new DCR pump installed right here, and our new lines, our fuel lines, injection lines, put back in and torqued on. We had to replace the two here that feed from the pump, and a crossover line, it stays, it goes to the other fuel rail on the other side. And we also had to change the feed lines and return lines. This deal here with the sensors in it, this deal was changed. Here's the original, and it worked out perfect for my swap here, because the original here, you can see I did a compression fitting and some adapters here and changed some hoses and stuff for our feed line, because it had a fitting going right into our master cylinder, and it didn't work. That's why I had to cut it and put this compression fitting on here. And I was worried about that leaking, but the replacement line, it has the fitting going straight up, and it clears the master just perfect. So that works out great. We get to use the push to connect or quick connect fittings like the factory has, and we got rid of my kind of piece together there piece. So really happy with how that turned out. Plus we cleaned up some of the lines here with the disaster prevention kit. It had some extra lines going on here that kind of kinked up, and I wasn't really pleased with that. I was going to redo it anyway. And that disaster prevention kit also has a filter you have to mount up here somewhere to filter that fuel. I didn't mention before, but that kit, it diverts the fuel out of the crankcase of the pump through a filter before it goes back to the tank, and it doesn't send it through the injector. So that's how it prevents the disaster. But if your fuel pump fails with that kit on there, you still have a pump that you have to replace. But at least keeps you from having to replace every single bit of the all of these lines have to be undone and redone. Injectors, your fuel rail, it's a mess. But anyway, glad we have that taken care of now. And I should mention that pump puts out a little bit more fuel pressure, or a little bit more volume, I guess, not pressure. So you can turn these things up just a little bit more with that fuel pump there, and just get you a little bit more power. So that is welcome as well. We got to get our fan back on here, and I'm waiting on I lost my snap ring for my lower radiator hose here. These things are kind of a pain. They're easy to put on because you just push them in and they snap, and there's an O-ring in here. But when you take them apart, it's really easy to lose your little snap ring there. It's probably in one of my boxes in the back of this truck, but I've had this thing apart for so long, kind of forgot all that stuff. I looked around for a little bit for it, but I didn't find it, so I'm gonna get a new one. Another piece of advice, if you're working on one of these trucks, all these push to connect coolant lines, if you have it apart, every time I replace the O-ring. It doesn't matter if you just had it apart or not. I replace the O-ring. Here's the kit. There's the Dorman part number for the kit, 26159. Replace all the O-rings on these coolant lines down in here because they get flat. Here's one I just replaced on that big one. See how flat it is? They get flat, and sometimes they'll leak on you, and I've had to do that numerous times on trucks I've worked on here in the shop, and I learned my lesson. So anytime I take one of these hoses off, I replace it. Usually it's the one right up here that I've changed out to a hose connection now, because we're going to do a custom upper radiator hose. But usually this one up here, or a one on the radiator, whenever you're working on something, that's usually the first one that comes off. And you put it back on, and you get it fired up, put your coolant back in it, and you have a drip. And the only way to fix it is to take it back apart, drain your coolant, take it back apart, and take your O-ring off. So trying to prevent that and prevent as many leaks as we can. So basically, I think we're ready to go. There's a few more things I would like to do while the front end's off, but I think we're going to have to just start putting things together because we're going to be running out of room here pretty quick. So I'm going to have to kind of put everything where it needs to go, the radiator, the inner fenders and stuff, and we'll start mounting stuff up and see what fits. So I'm going to get after it. All right, first thing that goes on when you're assembling the front end is going to be your inner fenders, and you have to prep those before you put them on, or you should, I guess. First thing I do is start to put our gaskets here on the edge of the inner fenders. I already have this one installed. I've seen some people leave this off before, which I get it. These things are kind of a pain to put on, but I think it pays off once you get them on because it does seal your firewall off in your inner fenders because your wheel's up here splashing. And if you ever drive through any water or anything, you can splash water up in here and get all this dirty up in here. So there is a purpose for them. They're little splash guards. And one that comes up in here and keeps dirt and debris from splashing and getting caught up in here in this channel here. So we have these little rubber gaskets here. These are a Dennis Carpenter piece, and these are actually different than the last set I've got. I don't know if they changed or updated in some way. The old ones were like reinforced with nylon. There's like fiber in this, and they were a lot stiffer. These are really loose and floppy. I don't know if that's better or worse. It's probably going to be better for install because the old style, whenever you get it up here to the firewall, and you try to shove the inner fender up in here where it goes, you're always fighting that gasket there on the firewall to get it in place, which makes it have a good seal, but it kind of a struggle to get your bolt here where you need it to be, these slots. But this is nice and soft, so hopefully it'll fix that. Another improvement is, I don't remember which one, but they aren't the same on both sides. And the old set, they had the same gasket on both sides, and you just kind of had to make one fit. And these seem to be different on each side, and they fit each one perfect. The contour is here, wherever it jots in here. So that seems to be different. See how this one follows the contour and comes out right here, and this one doesn't. So hopefully they fit pretty good. I know the last ones you just had to live with it. So apparently they updated things. I don't know if it's a update for the better or for the worst. I'm kind of worried about how soft this is, and hopefully it just doesn't go to pieces like a lot of the rubber products nowadays that you get on this stuff, but I guess we will find out. I've gone over this before on the channel, but I just wanted to show it again just in case it helps anybody doing this. I wanted to show my technique for putting these staples in to hold these little gaskets in. So I'm gonna get set up and I'll show you how. I'll put in a few of them and show you how I do them. All right, first step is gonna be getting it where you want it, and I put a few clamps along here just so it stays in place. Once you kind of get it where you want it, I kind of work my way down and don't start on one end and go to another end because you'll end up with a little bit in the middle you got to deal with. So I start at one end and end up on the other. And I already have one here, but what I take is I take my center punch here and find a spot and mark it there. And then I get one of my staples, and usually they're kind of splayed out a little bit. You see that? I take my pliers and just kind of make sure they're straight, they're parallel, so that when you put it in, they go straight. So after I do that, I take hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. I take my staple, and I figure out the distance I need to go to drill another hole. It's kind of an estimate here. So now I got my 2 marks. And then I have this little bitty tiny drill bit. And drill my holes. Now the next step I do, you gotta be careful, but I put my fingers back here behind the rubber, and then I run the bit through it and get a hole started in the rubber. That'll help you get that staple through there. That step was a lot harder with the old style rubber deals, I guess because they were reinforced. There was no chance of pushing a staple through that. But this soft stuff, I think you could do without that step. But it still makes it just a little bit easier. So now we got that staple in there, pushed all the way through. And then I come on the back side. See if I can do this one-handed. Looks like our clamp here is going to be in the way. You see it sticking through there on the back side. And I take a set of pliers up in here. It's going to be hard to do one-handed. Basically, I get it started. Let me see if I can get the camera set up here where you guys can watch. So I get one end, I get it started, kind of bending. And then I have a set of vice grips that have a real long jaw so that I can reach in there. And I get on the back side of the staple and the one side, and I crimp one end down. And usually you have to come back in here with a set of pliers and get the other end started. Once you get the hang of it, it really goes pretty fast, relatively. There's probably some better techniques to do this. That one's not wanting to go. There we go. If you had an actual staple gun that could go through all this, that'd make it really nice and fold them over. But I don't have anything stout enough to do that. So once I did that, then you'll go on and do your next ones and just go down the edge until you get them all done. I'll go through another one here from up top without me fumbling around with the camera. Now on location, I just kind of put them where I think they should go. So I kind of just play it by ear. I don't really have a method for the madness. I just put them wherever. The factory sure did it that way. Got them squeezed together, make sure they're straight. Get our alignment set up. And that's it. I did this one really nice here on the back side. This is what I'm shooting for every time. Fold it over nice and neat like that. Sometimes it doesn't go that well. Sometimes I get it like that. But, you know, it's kind of one of them things. It's good enough. It'll do the job. So I'm going to get the rest of these done and get the gasket that goes in here and seals off this spot. And then we'll be ready to put them on the truck. All right, I got all my rubber pieces on both pieces. I have my inner fender supports mounted on the firewall there. And I have my bolts ready to go. So I have these bolts that go through the holes ready to go. So whenever I get it on there, I can get it set up and kind of keep things from moving around as much as possible. Because you can scratch up your paint if you got nice shiny new paint. It's kind of a tricky situation doing by yourself sometimes, but you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, slide this thing on there, And our rubber pieces are going to be keeping us from going together great. Get the top one in here first. And we'll see if we can get these things kind of where they need to be. Try to... There's another one. All right, we are loosely together. Put my nuts in here so we don't have anything fall off on us. Get our gasket here kind of situated. Now this nice soft one is making it nicer to get this part figured out. The old ones, they were a lot stiffer, so you had to fight this a little bit more. So that is a positive if they last. I'm kind of worried about them lasting, but I guess we'll find out. Let me show you guys what we're doing here. This is what I'm talking about here, where the gasket meets the firewall. We could probably put a little slit in that one to get it around the seam there on the firewall, but everything seems to be fitting up there nice. So I'm gonna get the other one installed and then we'll work on the core support. All right, I have it all set up. I have my bolts out of the way, and also have a handful of my body bolts. These things here ready to go, because that's gonna hold once we get it up here and kind of get it in place, because it's kind of tricky to get everything lined up here, to get everything fitted up. So just fair warning on that. I've always had those bolts that go around the edge of your inner fenders there, you kind of got to play around with them. Doesn't help that my core support is heavier because I got added pieces for the radiator support. All right, first up, I'm going to try to get bolts lined up in my body mounts. There's one. Two. Okay, now I gotta get the inner fender picked up to where I can set it on top of the core support here, like so. We'll put a couple body bolts in to hold it in place. Now our upper valance will go over this part here, but this is just to hold it in place for now. And I'll put my nuts on the bottom of my core support mount so the body bushing doesn't fall apart on us. Now on a factory pickup, your body bushings are going to be on the frame rail. But like I said, this is modified for our setup here. I got this piece down below to hold our bottom part of our radiator. And there we go. So next step is going to be starting all your bolts along here that hold the front edge of your core support, and just kind of getting everything square and where you want it. And then we'll start on the fenders so we can start playing with our alignment. All right, I got the core support and the inner fenders all tied together. I have the bolts that go along here put in. These you kind of got to fight the inner fender to get them to all line up. But once you get them lined up, it starts to go together smoothly. You also got to watch to make sure you're not threading these because of the misalignment. It's easy to get it in there at an angle, and kind of got to make sure you're not cross-threading that, because that is a piece that is integrated into your core support, and if you screw up that little welded in nut thing, it's kind of a problem. You can fix it, but you know, it's best if you don't have to. Another thing I forgot to add before I put the inner fender on is right here. There is a captured nut, one of these things. What do they call these? A J nut or something? I can't remember what exactly they're called. But I always forget a few of these things. And if you're putting one of these together without a truck that's already put together to reference, I feel sorry for you, because I've put together from scratch, like, what are we on now? 5 or 6? I can't remember. And I have to reference a truck every time I put one together. I haven't stored it in my mind, apparently, of all the ins and outs of which piece goes on first and how to do this and that. And like pieces like that, I forgot to add that before I put the core support on. So then I went back, okay, well, now I need to go add all the little clips that I can think of. I did these right here. This is a little brace for the Grille support, or the upper valance. And added clips on that piece, that little angle piece, and bolted that in. I added my clips along the edge of the inner fender there. And there's one that goes down here that the bottom of the fender bolts onto. And speaking of fenders, I have one of mine here. There's one that goes on the fender here to clip, or to bolt on the inside of the door jamb in there. And then you have 2 up here on the front that face outward like this, and these bolt onto this portion of the core support, if I remember correctly. And then these holes right here, the clips will be in the actual grill itself. So those bolt holes are for the grill. So those things are you kind of got to remember to do that, because when you're putting things together and you forget that, it kind of causes you some problems. Speaking of fenders and stuff, I added this rubber piece. So this is a little piece that I added onto the fender. Well, this is the factory piece, but I added a new one, I guess I should say. So we added that in. There's some clips, and they have these little metal retainer clips. I can't remember exactly where that goes. I think it clips it onto this down here, or down here. I can't remember. Oh, once I get it on there, I'll figure it out. But the bigger holes on the edge, they go into these holes of the cab here, and kind of keep stuff from getting into your door jamb there if your tire's flinging some stuff. So I'm going to knock out the other fender and get those both hung. And before I do that, I'm going to put some butyl tape right here, some rubber sealant stuff along the edge here. The factory did that. And that's just another area to seal up from water and road debris coming up here and getting in between your fender and getting out here on your inner fender there. So helps keep things a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to get after that, and once you get the fenders hung on here, we'll see how they line up. All right, got the fender hung on there loosely, and just checking a few things here. We're going to have to set our gap with our door and our gap here with our cowl. Very first thing I do, first off, is get the fender kind of loosely hung on there, and I have the bolt in the door jamb here, and I have the bolt in the bottom, but they are both loose. But you have to be careful if you're opening your door. You can snag this corner here if your fender is not sucked up in there. So that's why I like to put this little bolt in here first and kind of get it pulled up. It's not pulled up all the way. Something like this helps a lot with one of these things. But you can get in there with a ratchet if you don't have a power ratchet like that. And we're still out here on the side. Like I said, everything's loose. One thing I do tighten up, the very first thing, is these 2 bolts here, and that is to get the fender stuck up to the core support here and to be where it needs to be, because we're going to have to set this gap here at the door, and we don't want to have to be trying to fight everything to get that gap right, whenever in reality the fender will go by itself and this will stay. Because to set that gap, it's going to be these slots right here on the core support. It's either all the way pushed out this way. It looks like we're pretty close, but we have to go just a little bit more, a 1/16 or so. And because of those brand new gaskets we put on the end of our fender apron there, our inner fender, it is really hard to shove that fender back. So I'm probably gonna have to wait till I have some help where I can really put some pressure on that to get that back, and then someone come up here and tighten these up for me. And that'll set our door gap here. And then this one right here is pretty tricky because typically to get your bump lined up right here, it has a pretty good gap right here, kind of more. You would think it would be symmetrical with your door jamb and your gap here, but really this ends up being a little bit bigger. And it works out because your hood gap here is usually a little bit bigger. So I think Ford might have designed that to kind of match the hood gap here. It'll make more sense when the hood's on there. But basically how I do it is I line the bump, you sight down the bump, and I line that up. I don't worry about this gap up here. I worry about the bump right here. And it looks like we're kind of high. If you see our bumps aren't lined up. This one's high. So we'll bring this down and we'll open this gap up here, but we're going to line this bump up here. But not going to worry about that until I get everything shoved back, because your bolt on the inside of here is what's going to set that. So I got to leave that loose till I get shoved back. And then we'll tighten these up here, and then I'll work on trying to pry this down a little bit and then tightening that up there. Now, to get that fender to go down, you can loosen these up right here, because there is lots of play in this, and make these go down a little bit. Or you also have play with this fender apron here. You have a little bit of play there to make it, it'll bend a little bit to kind of get your fender up and down where you need it to be. So there's some tips on aligning the fender. And basically, I just have to go look at a truck that's assembled, like this one over here, and go where I need to go next. I think I'm going to work on the lower valance here and kind of get it in place, because that's going to set your fender in and out down here. And in and out up here at the top is going to be by your grill and upper valance. So kind of going to work on that and see what I get into. And I also got to get the other fender mounted up here. I got all the pieces put in the fender, so I'm going to mount the other fender and do the same thing, get it kind of loosely set into place, and then I'll start kind of piecing the front end together, and then we can get our front alignment done. All right, I got the passenger side fender hung on here, and we have some alignment issues here, and I'm glad we did, because I can show you the remedy for this. You can see we're wedge shaped here on our door jamb. We're tight down here, and we got a gap up here, and basically that is going to come down to our shims under our cab mounts, or a core support mount rather. And this is going to be totally different than the way yours is, because I made all of this, and that is probably where our gap is here. I didn't get this exactly right, so I'm going to have to shim this side up. The other side's good, we didn't have to mess with that, but this side I'll probably put some shims under here. And the factory, on the factory bump side trucks, they had shims that they stacked on the core supports to get this aligned properly. So we're kind of just going off of that. And I got a little shim here, a big old washer. I'm going to slap it up under the front core support mount and see if we get a little bit better door jamb there. Let me set you guys up here where you can watch what I'm doing, maybe. I already got the bolt out of here. So basically, I just got to pick up on this if I can. I didn't make it too heavy already. Yeah, we're good. Get our bolt out of there. Get our washer up in there. All right. We'll see how we come out before I put the bolt back in. I think we're better, and our gap's still big, but we're just looking at the difference between top and bottom. We could probably use a hair more, but I think we are too high right here, so that is going to affect it some too. I might just leave it at that and see, because if I put another one of those big fat washers on there, it's going to be way too much. It's going to take like a thin one. I'm not sure if I have anything like that, but we'll see how close we can get it with that washer on there and keep moving forward. All right, next up, we're going to install my lower valance here, or stone deflector. It's been called both things. Basically, you got to put clips on the bottom. So we got clips all along here. And this is actually a new piece. And the factory pieces, these end caps were spot welded on. But since this is all new, it comes as separate pieces. So these end caps are separate from the actual valance, and they're just bolted on. If you can see that, I just bolted them on there. So that might be different on yours versus mine if you're using an original one. And right here, I like to use bolts and nuts because if you use one of those clips, the clip has some, you know, meat to it, and it will actually space this out. You have a little bit of a gap right here where if you use a bolt and a nut, it'll suck it up tight with this right here. So I like to do that. And basically your clips go all along your, what do you call it, core support. And this is going to set your fender, your in and out on your fender here on the bottom, because we have a lot of play and we just kind of eyeballed it earlier whenever we sucked it up with these bolts here. So we'll probably have to loosen these back up and then move our fender to kind of get our width right, because right now it is just, like I said, eyeballed. So I like to get it started on your core support because you have less room to play with there. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be a little bit off on our fenders, because to get this bolt lined up, we had to stick it out pretty far there. We'll get a few of these started. Now you also have to make sure that your core support is where you want it as well, because there's play in your body bushings on a factory truck. Not as much on this, the way this is made. Hopefully I welded them on in the right spot. But on a factory truck, you do have a little bit of play in those body bushings to be able to move this core support back and forth and get your alignment right. So to do that, basically what I'm going to do is look down your body right here and make sure your front end isn't, you know, dog-legged one way or the other to the rest of your cab and your bed. This actually looks pretty good, but we're down here, we're way off down here, but you know, we're going to be, you can, if that's loose enough, I think I did actually, yeah, so you see that? That's how much play you have in your fender there. So that's how you make that up and you get that where you want it and bolt this together. But as long as you're straight down your body line, you can kind of manipulate the bottom of that fender to be where you want it to be on that valance. I'm gonna go ahead and put the 2 center bolts in here and suck it down so we know where that is before we start putting our fender bolts in. All right, next step is going to be make sure your fender bolts here are loose. I think I already loosened these up. Yep. I'll loosen up the other side so we can do it at the same time. All right, that's loose. Now we'll start putting our bolts and nuts in, and this is what I use. Give you guys an idea here. So it's standard body bolt, and I use a serrated flange nut in the 5/16 to match our 5/16 body bolt. So that goes in here. Two on the side, and then there's one that goes through both pieces, the fender and the core support. I'm gonna get this where I want it, and then start tightening them up. And now, I'm not one to get super picky about your body lines and your door gaps and all of that. Basically because I'm probably putting it together and taking more care than they did at the factory. Although those guys could probably do this in no time at all, as many as they had to do. But I just try to make it look as good as I think it should look. And like, if it doesn't match up just perfectly, I just let it ride. But that's just me personally. Other folks, it would probably bug the crap out of them and they can't stand it, and they probably can't stand looking at my truck, but I guess it's just my truck. Because this right here, it didn't line up just perfect, but we're going to have a bumper here. You're not going to really matter. And my body lines aren't just laser straight looking down the truck because I just straightened it up as best as I could. Of course, this is a driver. This isn't a show truck, so I didn't like make the perfect door gaps and the fender gaps and all that. So just a little PSA for anybody that is putting a truck together and they're worried about it. It's like, all you got to do is make yourself happy. Build the truck you want to build. Don't worry about what other people think about it. It's kind of the way I look at it. This one's got to go in. There, it went right in, just right where it needed to be. That worked out good. Don't forget to sight down your body line to make sure you're not making your fenders all wanky one way or the other. I'll grab the camera once I get this all tightened up and show you what I'm looking at down the body line. And I'm short a body bolt. I buy those dang things in packages of 100. And when you're assembling trucks, you burn through them like crazy. This reminds me, I have had issues with aftermarket parts and these bolts around here not lining up, which I'm having one right now not line up. My fenders are OEM, but this upper valance is not. So I don't know, and my core support is OEM. Looks like we got a little bit of mismatch here going on. If I can get the bolt started, it might work. I'm probably gonna have to play with that off camera. Let me show you guys what we're looking at here. All right, first off, looking down your body line here and making sure your fender's not one way or the other. That's pretty exaggerated, but just making sure you're not, your core support's in the right spot, basically. And we look good here. And I got the bottom of the fender kicked out, so this right here is good. And then same thing over here. Look down that. And got the fender all lined up there. And then up under here is the bolt hole that's giving me problems. You can see we just got a little bit of sliver of that hole. So something, this thing here might be tweaked or something right here. I don't know. We'll get it lined out and get that bolt in. I'm not too worried about that because you can't really see a lot of this because the bumper is right here and then your grill is up here. So it kind of hides a lot of this stuff anyway. But we'll see if we can get that bolt in it so it kind of holds everything together, and we'll move on with the assembly. All right, next up we have our grill assembly with our upper valance and pieces. I tried to do this all assembled on camera, but I just couldn't do it without having to go over and look at an assembled truck about 100 times. But I think I have it loosely blown apart here so I can kind of show you guys. If you are working your way through your own truck and trying to assemble all this stuff, I can kind of give you some pointers here. I have clips on these pieces on the bottom of the grill. So those are going to bolt up to your core support and your brace that goes from here to your hood latch. On your upper valance deal, I have clips on the middle of the grill, and then bolts will go through that to the grill itself. And then right here, they have a slot, and Ford used a bolt and nut there, so I'm going to use a bolt and nut there as well. And I put this on before I put it on the truck, as well as my hood latch assembly. Now yours is going to be different. If you have different years, this is a 72 model style. I think 71s, I don't know about 70s, use this style, and a 69 is a little bit bigger. 68, I'm not sure about, and then 67, you'll just have two pieces like this that you have to put together. So your hood latch assembly is going to be different depending on what year of truck you have, but this is a 72, so that's what we have here. But basically, it assembles the same. And this little piece right here, I always have to like look about 5 times before I get it figured out which way it goes. And it has a clip on one side, and I don't really know a good way to tell you which side it is, but you just kind of got to figure it out. Basically, the clip goes on the back side of the hood latch there, so you can put a bolt through that, and it goes on top of that, and you'll put a bolt through that, through the core support there, and sandwich it all together. Basically, this gives you extra support for your hood latch, so when you slam the hood, it doesn't want to bend this up here. It kind of goes all the way and kind of supports the whole thing. So I'm going to get all that together, and then I'm just going to loosely hang it on the truck here. This is kind of pointless other than to look cool, because I just want to see this thing with the grill on it, because I'm probably going to have to pull it back off. Well, I know I'm going to have to pull it back off because I have to put a AC condenser in here and fit the AC lines and run all my wires through here for the headlights and all that kind of stuff. But it's easy just to hang it on there. Now I'm going to take these off right here because this thing goes on top of it, if you can see this here. Now, depending on what assembly plant your truck was assembled in, this might be assembled different. I'm assembling it like a Kansas City truck would, or I'm sure there's other assembly plants, but the majority of trucks that I see in my area were made in Kansas City, and this is the way they assembled them. This goes on top of all of it. All of this goes down like this, and then your upper valance goes on top of this. But San Jose trucks were built with the inner fender and these two pieces right here on top of the upper valance. So you have to pull this up and put the upper valance in underneath that and then bolt it all together. It's kind of harder to put together that way, but if you want to go back exactly like the original would be, most of the time I see San Jose trucks with this piece on top. And on 72 San Jose trucks, this piece was black. It was not body color, so that's another thing you can look for if you want to make something just perfect, factory original. Like Kansas City, and I don't think I've seen any assembly plant paint these black other than San Jose. San Jose turned out a lot of trucks. They were did most of the western side of the United States, so it might have just been a speed thing. They could just paint this black and not have to paint them body color. It was one less thing they had to paint, since you can't really see it with the hood shut and everything. So that's kind of my theory there. But we're going to get this thing put together, and we'll toss it on a truck and see what it looks like. All right, correction. I haven't got very far, and I already did something wrong. This clip right here does not go on the grill, so I'll have to take that off. We put a clip on the core support right here, and also don't forget your clips up here on the for the hood latch. But we put a clip here on this tab sticking up on the core support, and not one here, and the bolt sandwiches through all that. So I was starting to assemble all this and realized, oh no, that was wrong. So wanted to jump in here and correct that, so you guys don't start scratching your heads on me. But I'm going to finish this, and we'll continue on with assembly. All right, I think we're ready to go. One thing I did forget to mention was here on the edge of the grill, there's two little clips you got to put in right here. And hopefully I got it all right. We'll see when we get set on the truck here how close we are. Now, remember, this is just basically for fun. I'm going to be taking this back off. When you go together for real, you're going to have grounds to worry about right here for your headlights and your marker lights. You're going to want to plug your marker lights in. If you have a 69, if you have a 70 to 72, the marker lights are bolted into the upper valance here. But since we're going together with 69 stuff on this truck, because it is a 72, but I'm making it look like a 69 because I just prefer the looks better. So I guess we're just going to see how it fits. We have these little pieces up here, the little standoff things. Now they're adjustable, so they may not be in the right spot. And our hood latch assembly is adjustable, so it might not be in the right spot. So that kind of stuff we can kind of just play with. We're basically just going to be very careful if you have new paint. Get it set in here kind of where it goes. I'm going to get a couple bolts started so it doesn't fall off on us. Looks like we're fairly close on everything. We aren't on our hood latch there, but it looks like it needs to kind of twist this way. I definitely don't have a long enough bolt to get that where it needs to go. Oh, I assembled that wrong. Okay. Well, that's why that's not going to work. My vertical piece is assembled wrong, so what did I do wrong there? That needs to go, I think it needs to flip around. Let's see, is that going to screw us up too bad? I think it is. Yeah, I'm going to take it back off and fix that. Stand by. All right, take two. Something is still not happy there with that deal. See how it's held away from the end there? Something's bent out of place. So I'm going to just kind of get it a little bit put together and see what the deal is. Like I said, with these new parts, you might have to kind of bend it into place and get it kind of, that sure fixed our hood latch here. I think that was why it was bent way out, because I had it on the wrong position, although we got to go south a little bit. Let's get ahead of myself, put some bolts in here. Put a few up here just to hold it kind of in place. Not that one. Now this is going to be adjusted again whenever you get your hood latch, or when we're adjusting the hood. This is going to adjust basically how much play you have with your bumpers on your fenders with your hood. And the way I adjust this deal is whenever you shut your hood, how much up and down play you have. You don't want it to be super tight where it's hard to get your hood shut, but you also don't want it to be super loose where it's up here and has lots of play. Because if it's super tight, you run the risk of not actually getting your hood latched all the way, and then you're just riding on the safety latch. And you know, you always see pictures of guys that didn't get their hoods latched and went down the highway and their hood flopped up against their cab. We want to avoid that, but I like to adjust that to where there's a little bit of play, so when you slam it, you really get a good latch on your main latch on your hood. So we got that in there. Man, we're like bowed out. I think that's going to be our grill, because these tabs down here in the bottom we're not even close. I think that's going to be our lip here on our grill. It's not in the right position, because I can push it into position. Whenever I've assembled trucks, this is the first brand new grill I've went with, so it's just pushing it like that's making it go into place. So we're definitely kind of getting it wedged into place there. Now on side to side, looks like we need to go this way. Line up right here on your bottom of your grill, because right here the headlight bucket is what lines it up. And looking down here, well, no, we might be pretty close. Let's see if I can get a couple of bolts in the back side here. There we go. I'll just kind of leave it fairly sucked up since we're going to be taking this thing off anyway. But it's nice to have it in here for test fitting purposes anyway. And to take some pictures of it, you know. Ooh. Gonna have to just sit here and stare at this thing for a while after I get it assembled. So, there we go. Right here is what I was looking at. Looks like we need to come a little bit south, a little this way, a little bit more. See, we got a little gap there. Let's see what the other side looks like. Yeah, were protruding a little bit on this side, so I didn't get the grill centered perfectly. We'll get that next time. But yeah, for now, we're gonna leave it off right here because I am not ready to put the hood on and final assembly all this thing. We'll catch up back on that a little bit later whenever I get closer to final assembly on this truck. We'll finish out this front end assembly. All right, well, I just couldn't help myself. I went ahead and put a bumper and our grill guard installed. I don't think I've shown this grill guard on the channel before. I think I made some posts on Instagram. You might have seen it there, but this is a factory original grill guard for a bump side truck in 68 and 69. 67, they had a grill guard that was almost identical to this, except the braces. There should be a brace right here that goes down to the frame, which this one doesn't have. It was down here on a 67. So if you see one of these grill guards and you're wondering what year it's from, the 68 and 9s were up here and the 67s were down here. It had a lot shorter leg. But this thing popped up on Marketplace a year and a half ago or so. And, you know, I just had to go get it because these things are really hard to find. And usually they're bolted on a truck. But this one was loose and somebody just wanted a few $100 for it. So I went and picked it up. We sandblasted it and painted it Corinthian white, the same as I do on painting grills and the wheels, and the same as the rear bumper back there. It's very close to Wimbledon white, if not the exact same. I might just start doing Wimbledon white on it because it's a lot easier to get paint-wise. But this one is Corinthian white, and I put it on here just because I love the, for one, I love 69s and before the earlier trucks. And I love the look of the factory original grill guard. So it's a real nice addition to this truck. I think it really sets off. I was really happy with how it turned out. Obviously, this stuff is all going to be coming back apart because we have to do finish assembly, like I said, with our condenser back in here, our headlights and all that kind of stuff. But just kind of motivation is a big thing with projects of this scale. So this was a big motivator for me to see this grill up here and grill guard. This thing's going to look great. Originally, when I started on this project, I was going to do a winch bumper, kind of like I have on my Ultimate Highboy. And I kind of didn't want it to look as close to that truck as it would make it if I had that winch bumper on the front. So I decided to do it a little bit different just to kind of contrast the trucks a little bit from the Ultimate Crew Cab and the Ultimate Highboy. So we have a factory bumper and the factory grill guard, like I said. One negative on that is it does show my lower radiator support down here. So it is not, if I had a big winch bumper here, I think it would cover all of that up. So it does kind of leave that little exposed. This is my secondary radiator here that you can see. I might get a custom Highboy style cross member down here and bolt it up here to the bottom of the frame so it kind of hides it a little bit. I have to make it custom because our frame width is 37 inches because this is a Super Duty frame, remember? And Highboy frames are 34. So like if I buy a replacement cross member, it's not going to be wide enough. So I have to get with my buddy that's got a big press brake and see if we can bend up a cross member that looks like a Highboy and maybe kind of hide that a little bit. I haven't really decided. The satin black that I painted it kind of hides it as is. But standing here in person, it kind of sticks out a little bit more than I would like. So we might try to do a little bit of cosmetic work and kind of hide that a little bit. And but yeah, other than that, I've been doing some work up here, doing all the little stuff and starting to get the puzzle back together that I started 2.5 years ago now, maybe 3. So here's my wiring harness, my underhood wiring harness for the engine, the powertrain. It's all stripped down and taped together and just kind of loosely zip tied together. I didn't do wire loom yet because I wanted to get further along in the project and make sure I didn't need to change anything or modify anything before I went ahead to all the trouble to loom it. So it's not loomed yet, but it is pretty much routed and our big power wires are routed. And things like my new battery junction box right here with fuses, I have that mounted, and I have our big fuse box over there with our big main fuses. And my computer, my powertrain control module is there. So I'm kind of getting everything kind of put back in fitted where I had it sorted out a long time ago. I did add a power steering reservoir. So that's for our power steering system. I'm kind of getting the fittings and the hoses all lined up there for that. That's what this is. Comes from our power steering gear. It's got to go to our Hydro Boost and all of our Hydro Boost lines. So this is the kind of stuff I kind of need to get worked out before I get too further along, because if you got to change something and you have all this put together and you got to reach way down in there to do a fitting or something, it gets harder. So trying to you know, work my way up and get the stuff that's harder to get to down on the side of the engine. And things like my AC lines. I have fittings ordered and a hose kit from Vintage Air. Those are way down here in the compressor, so if I do my hoses here for my secondary coolant, this is the secondary water pump in and out for the secondary system for the intercooler, which I'm going to mount right here, I think. But I need to do my AC lines down here before I get to that, because they're going to be covered up and stuff like that, you know. Got to get all that worked out. Here I have my radiator. I was fitting that because I'm going to run the cooler that's in the bottom of that for my power steering. I needed that to do the lines, to figure all that out. So, you know, it's just kind of a big jigsaw puzzle you got to put together. So I'm waiting to put my engine harness in until I get that stuff sorted out, because there's going to be some in and out on that. But yeah, this video is turning out to be a doozy. I wanted to get the hood and everything assembled so I can have a whole front end alignment video for you guys. But right now we're just doing the fenders and the front end. We'll do the hood and stuff a little bit later on. Leaves a lot better access for me to be working on this thing and not having to deal with a hood. So that'll probably be further down the line when we put the hood on here. But hopefully you guys love seeing the Ultimate Crew Cab back on the channel. I'm glad to be back on it and working on it. I really want to get this thing on the road this year. So this is a big step in that way with the motivation of the front end. It looks great. I got to take some awesome pictures of it, and that's a big motivator for me. But happy to have this one back on the road. But don't forget, guys, we have hats, and I have some shirts and some stickers on my merch store. Link will be down in the description below. That is the best way to support the channel right now. So thank you everyone that has been supporting in the past and bought hats and shirts. And thank you for everyone in the future. But we're going to leave this one off, and we'll pick back up on this thing when we get down in the engine and hopefully get this thing running again after a couple of years of not running. So you'll see that next time on this channel. So give me a thumbs up if you like this truck. Subscribe if you want to see that happen. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.